Hi viewers, this is Ashok, lecturer in economics. In this video, I am going to explain the reasons for the negative slope of demand curve. Here, the demand means the quantity of a commodity that the consumers are ready to buy at a particular price at a particular time. Right? The important determinant of demand for a commodity is its price. There is inverse relationship between price and demand. There is inverse relationship between price and demand. When price rises, demand falls. When price falls, demand rises. There is an inverse relationship between price and demand. Therefore, demand curve slopes downwards to the right. Demand curve slopes downwards to the right. For example, when price is OP, demand is OQ. When price comes down to OP1, demand increases to OQ1. So when we join these corners, we get demand curve. When price is high, demand is low. When price is low, demand is high. Because of this reason, demand curve slopes downwards to the right. Right? Then here we have to understand why demand rises with a fall in its price of a commodity. Why demand falls with a rise in the price of that commodity. Right? Here we are going to understand the reasons for the downward slope of downward slope of demand curve or negative slope of demand curve. Here, with the help of these heads, we are going to understand why demand rises with a fall in the price, why demand falls with a rise in the price. Right? First point is that old buyers and new buyers. Here, when there is a fall in the price of that commodity, then what happens? The old buyers will probably purchase more of a commodity, and those who were unable to buy that commodity at higher prices will try to buy now at the reduced price. Therefore, they also enter into market and buy that commodity. So, the total demand for a commodity rises with a fall in the price of that commodity. Then when price rises, what happens? Some consumers who are unable to buy that commodity at this increased price will leave the market, and the existing consumers will buy less of that commodity because of the higher price. Therefore, demand falls with a rise in its price. Right? So when price is high, demand will be low. When price is low, demand will be high. Therefore, demand curve slopes downwards to the right. Then coming to second point, income effect. Here, income is also another important factor which influences the demand for a commodity. When there is a rise in the price of that commodity, then the purchasing power of income comes down. That's why consumer will buy less of the commodity. Demand falls. When there is a fall in the price of that commodity, then the purchasing power of income rises and he will be able to buy more of the commodity. Therefore, demand also rises. For example, here you see income of the consumer is assumed rupees 100. Then the average prices for goods rupees 10. Then the consumer will be able to buy 10 goods with the help of his rupees 100. But here it is assumed that prices increase to rupees 20. Income is same. Then how many goods that he can buy means he will buy only 5 goods. Why? Because with the rise in the price of that commodity, the purchasing power of this income has come down. Therefore, he is able to buy only 5 goods. So demand decreased. Right? Therefore, when price rises, demand falls. Or it is assumed that there is a fall in the price of that commodity to rupees 5. Then with the help of this rupees 100, consumer will be able to buy 20 goods Now he is able to buy more of these goods because of the fall in the price. Therefore demand rises, right? So when price rises, demand falls. When price falls, demand rises because of this income effect also. Therefore demand curve slopes downwards to the right. Then another one is substitution effect. Substitutes those goods which are used for the satisfaction of single want and which can be substituted one for another one. Because of this substitution effect, demand rises with a fall in the price, or demand falls with a rise in the price. For example, substitutes are Colgate and Close-Up. These two are the substitute goods. One can be substituted for another one. Here it is assumed that price of Colgate is ₹10, price of Close-Up is also ₹10. But here, in the case of substitutes, consumer will always prefer the commodity which is relatively available at a cheaper rate, right? For example, it is assumed that there is a rise in the price of Colgate to ₹15. Then here the Close-Up will be available at cheaper rate. Here you see, here it is for 15 rupees, but this is available for 10 rupees only. Therefore the demand for Close-Up rises. The demand for Close-Up rises. Its demand increased just because of the lower price. Therefore when price is lower, demand will be higher. And the demand for Colgate decreased because of its higher price. Therefore when price is higher, demand will be lower. So the demand curve slopes downwards to the right. This is called substitution effect. Then coming to fourth one, the law of diminishing marginal utility. Here, according to the law of diminishing marginal utility, when the quantity of commodity increases with a person, consumer will get less and less satisfaction. Less and less satisfaction. This is the effect of the law of diminishing marginal utility, right? Therefore when consumer wants to buy more of the commodity, he will be willing to pay less price for it. So purchasing more quantity is possible at a lower price. Therefore when price is lower, demand will be higher. Then the demand curve slopes downwards to the right, right? For example, a seller is there with mangoes. The price for mangoes is ₹50 per kg, and seller is selling mangoes in the market, and he is left with 4 kgs of mangoes only, right? And here one consumer has come and he is willing to buy 2 kgs of mangoes at ₹50. But the seller says that, why don't you take the other 2 kgs of mangoes also, so that I can leave this market, like that he will say. Then the consumer says that no, I need only 2 kgs of mangoes, that's enough. So these are all very seasonal fruits, and very fresh looking. Why don't you buy this one? Means he will think over it and he will try to buy, but the consumer will ask for a reduction in the price of these mangoes. When seller accepts, the consumer will buy the additional 2 kgs of tomatoes also, right? For example, consumer asks these mangoes for 30 rupees per kg. Then what happens? Seller says this, no, you give me 35 rupees, like that he will say. Then he accepts. So at the ₹35 per kg, the consumer will buy additional 2 kgs also. Now he is buying 4 kgs of mangoes at reduced price ₹35. So purchasing more quantity of commodity is possible at reduced price. Moreover, why he asks a reduction in the price of that commodity? Why? Because when the quantity of commodity increases with the person, he will get less satisfaction. Therefore he will ask a reduction in the price of that commodity. So when seller accepts, he will buy more of the commodity. So purchasing more quantity is possible at reduced price, right? So that's why when price is lower, demand will be higher, and demand curve slopes downwards to the right. Then the last one is that multiple uses of a commodity. Some commodities are there which can be used for so many purposes. For example, electricity is there. So nowadays electricity is the most useful commodity for us, right? That is why we use electricity for many purposes, like for ironing the cloth, and for cooking purpose, for lighting purpose, for running machinery and equipment, right? For heating the water, for washing clothes, like that. For many purposes we use electricity. Therefore what happens, in such cases, when there is a rise in the price of electricity, then the demand for electricity decreases. When there is a fall in the price of that electricity, the demand for electricity increases, right? So when there is a fall in the price, then that electricity can be used for some unimportant purposes also. Therefore demand rises. When price is lower, demand increases. And when price rises, then people try to use this electricity for some important purposes only. Therefore demand decreases. So when price is higher, demand will be lower. When price is lower, demand will be higher. Therefore the demand curve slopes downwards to the right. This is what about the reasons for the negative slope of demand curve, or the downward slope of demand curve. Main reason is that the inverse relationship between price and demand. When price rises, demand falls. When price falls, demand rises. And all these reasons or heads explain why demand rises with a fall in the price, why demand falls with a rise in the price, right? Thank you very much for watching this video.